I'm Executive Vice President at Affilius, a domain name registry company, and also on the board of ICANN, which coordinates the stability and the security of the Internet. The Internet has been a tremendous force in democratizing many things, but one of the side effects of it has been the apparent and the real loss of privacy. Almost nothing you do online is actually yours anymore. You do leave a digital trail. Having said that, there are ways to put your trail, tuck it away, if you will, into a space that only you control. So privacy is evolving. Privacy isn't dead. This is a great question. Why should you even worry about your privacy online if you have nothing to hide? It's not so much about whether you have something to hide, it's about what others might be able to do with the data they glean about you. Why is it anybody else's business to know whether I liked something on a social network, whether I tweeted about something on another social network, or whether I provided a particular kind of information about myself that is personal to me and perhaps to my shared network? Why is that someone else's business? In the Indian context, you will find both law enforcement folks as well as military folks saying that all information about everybody really needs to be tracked, because you might be part of a terror network, you might be part of a cyber sleuthing or a cyber terrorism type of a network, therefore everything has to be monitored. But I think that argument falls on just the first principles. You have to have due cause and real reason before you start to spy on your own citizens. Many Indians aren't actually looking for privacy, and there is a much lower threshold, if you will, for how much privacy you're supposed to have as compared to out in the West. But there's a much higher concept of personal space. I do believe that there are tensions between privacy and cybersecurity. And again, I think the pendulum has swung a little too far in India. After the 11/26 attacks, one of the things that has happened is a model that says that for the sake of cybersecurity, all privacy should be sacrificed. And I think that pendulum has swung too far that direction. In the Indian context, I think the government does have a significant responsibility to protect its citizenry from cybercrime. As you know, Affilius is a technical service provider for the .in top-level domain, which is India's space on the Internet. In that area, one of the things that we have seen in our interactions with the government are an increasing number of stringent rules that attempt to both understand the nature of abuse and then to stamp out the abuse. So I think that is one set of things that you can do. The other set has to do really with education. I think far and away that is the biggest responsibility of the Indian government, is to ensure that the Indian citizens, there are more than 60 million citizens who use the Internet through a wired connection, many hundreds of millions more who access the Internet or Internet services or mobile services using their telephones. I think the much bigger responsibility is in helping the citizenry understand what cybercrime means. What does it mean? How do you understand when you are getting hacked or when you're being attacked? And then what do you do about it? And there is very little of that being done on an organized basis. Now, the IT Act, which was just recently modified just about a year ago, attempts to provide several safeguards and monitoring measures to help provide for greater cybersecurity. Having said that, I believe there is a greater need for the government to work with private industry as well as with academic institutions to ensure that there is a strong understanding of the kinds of threats that are unique to India. After all, there are many threats that either originate in a context in the Indian subcontinent that are specific to India and target specific folks or organizations in India for a reason that may not be exactly the same as what happens in the West. Localizing the threat vectors, understanding the targets and the rationale, the motivations for it, and then developing schemes that can repel those attacks, Those are important responsibilities that the government needs to take up. The fact of life is you do not learn about cybersecurity in the classroom. You learn about it in the field. You learn about it when you intern for private organizations during your school year. You learn about it when you actually go and work for government agencies or you work for NGOs that are targeted attack. You learn on the fly, but in a real life environment, how to protect and how to respond. So the combination of the marriage of theory to practice is necessary, and it doesn't exist. So to the question of whether there is a digital arms trade, we know the answer. Of course there's a digital arms trade. You find organizations that will come up to you, especially as government agencies, and say, you have just passed a law, these laws require surveillance, these laws require you to look at specific information, inspect packets and determine data. We have the tools for you. And you can actually do a little bit of an auction to find the best bidder for it. So there is a digital arms race. What's needed now, I believe, are better disclosure laws, better disclosure regulations, and more transparency, more openness about what is being surveilled, who are the targets, and what are the motivations behind the surveillance. And after it's done, when it's time to declassify, to actually declassify and to provide specific and complete studies about the effects as well as the side effects of such surveillance.